All right, man, we're recording. How are you today? This is
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. This is Carlito from Madhouse and also from PCN, Prank Call Nation. Today we're going to go outside my normal format, which this is my first show, so nobody's used to my normal format. But today we're going to go into and let Carlito explain what's going on over at Prank Call Nation. We're going to go through some of the history of the show, and we're also going to talk about what's in plans for the future. You know, to start off, you started on PCU, correct, with KDK and all of that?
Yeah, PCU in 2005, July of 2005, yep.
Yeah, I listened to that first broadcast, and you had the dead dog prank, which I actually enjoyed that one. I mean, but that was a live prank that was pre-recorded from a couple of years before that, right?
That was about 2001, I think I recorded it originally. So I had held on to that for some time, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was pretty good. And then another question about that first episode. You had the Ann Arbor, and I was curious, who was the Ann Arbor, the old guy, and then the woman? Who'd that turn out to be? Was it? I didn't hear much after that, so.
Oh, I don't even remember what that was. Ann Arbor, I would have grabbed that from just whatever came up on the caller ID.
Right. You were like, I remember in I've been burying myself in your archive to just get some prep questions here, and we were looking at, you know, you're talking to this person, and they would go from an old man voice to a woman voice, and then I was like, well, who the hell is that? They're really good at the voices, but I was like, but then again, they might have not been that great at pranks because I never heard from them again throughout the podcast. So, your relationship with KDK, was he your influence? Who was your major influences when you started getting into prank calls?
My major influences would have been definitely the Jerky Boys, specifically Johnny Brennan.
Sure.
I think that was my first, well, not my first, I mean, I did prank calls going back to maybe I was like 7, 8 years old. I used to basically do them with my cousin in Puerto Rico. They were in Spanish. We never recorded them, but we used to, you know, do prank calls during the summer, and that was like my first attempt getting into that. You know, I had friends who do prank calls, never thinking in the long term that I'd be doing it when I was in my 30s.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's exciting.
A lot of just, you know, yeah. Well, it's mostly just a lot of kid stuff. Jerky Boys were a big influence. A lot of the Howard Stern. I started listening to the Howard Stern Show in 1994. I was 14, 15 years old, so there were a lot of what they called like phony phone calls. So I used to, you know, pick up stuff from there. Touchstone Terrorists, or Touchstone Terrorist rather.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that. Yeah, those would be my early influences, and then a lot of my radio stuff came from listening to the station that the Howard Stern Show was in Orlando, Florida, which is where I grew up.
Yeah.
And back then, there was a talk format FM station, not like your normal boring political talk. It was more like shock jocks, but 24/7. They started out with Howard Stern from 6 to 11 o'clock. And then from there, it was just different hosts that would take over. And they would do prank calls during the day, and I would listen to a lot of that. And that's where I kind of got a lot of my radio kind of chops, you know. Yeah. Me and my 2 best friends from high school, we listened to those shows religiously. And when we were in college, we all moved out, went to college together. We lived in the same apartment, and we just kept that going. So that's where kind of the radio thing came into that, so.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I mean, I grew up in Milwaukee, so I know there was quite a bit of shock jock stations out there too. But at the same time, it's a lot of the political stuff. I love talk radio. I mean, I could listen to talk radio all day, and my wife thinks I'm crazy. But it's I don't know. Sports talk is a lot big to me too. Like you listen to Dan Lebitard. He's out of Florida as well. So, and he's pretty funny. He doesn't even talk about sports, which I really love. So, you know, when you got in with KDK, did you, I mean, how did that come about? Like, how did you figure out, you know, where you're going to go with your prank calls?
Well, I could tell you my earliest foray into the internet prank calling thing must have been 97. my first forays into the internet. And I think at some point I was on Yahoo, and I looked up prank calls. I just did a Yahoo search for prank calls, and I found blackoutsbox.com, I think is the website.
Yeah, I heard something recently about that from you on one of your podcasts. Yep. So, yeah.
Yeah. Blackout was he's pretty much, he goes saying that he was the first guy to have a prank call, that was posted on the internet for anyone to hear. It was on real audio. And I found his pranks way back then in '97. And every once in a while I'll be like, well, I want to hear some more prank calls. I go to Blackout's site. And at that point he started doing shows with KDK on some other network going on. I don't remember what it was. So I would find myself, every once in a while I wanted to hear, I used Winamp and I liked Shoutcast. And one day I just went and said, hey, I wonder if there's a prank call Shoutcast station. Let me see what's in here. And I typed in prank calls, and I came up with PCU. It was being run by Ted Webb back then, and Blackout was on there. KDK was on there, and it was like a 24/7 stream of prank calls. And I was like, this is great. Like, the only pranks I've heard are Blackout, Jerky Boys, and some Touchstone Terror stuff. And pranks from, like, all over the place. They weren't all good. It was a lot of kids prank calling and stuff like that. But I was like, hey, this is awesome. This is something I can keep going. I didn't even know there were live shows on the stream. I just thought there were just prank calls. And at some point I listened, I guess, on a Saturday night, and I was listening for like maybe 30, 40 minutes. And I figured out, well, wait a minute, this guy's live. I remember I was watching boxing on HBO, and I was like, this guy's actually live now. He's talking about a chat room. And that's how I ended up, really getting into it.
Yeah.
Within a week, KDK, he put out a call. He said he was looking to get new prank call talent. He was offering, time on the station for new shows to start. And I called him up on a show and said, hey, I'd like to give that a shot. He's like, yeah, well, send me some of your prank calls. And, if I think you're good, I'll give you a shot. And I sent them, for example, the call you were just talking about, the dead dog and stuff like that. And he loved it. And he said, he told me, pick a night. And he was in the middle of this beef feud with Blackout, who did shows on Thursday night. And I said, well, the only other show I know is Blackout, and you've got this fight going on with him. So, yeah, give me Thursday night. I'll go after him. I'll unseat him or whatever. And that's kind of where I got started. And I'm here 10 years later, and I'm still going, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, Blackout, he quit for a while, didn't he? I mean, was he recently? I think I listened to one of your calls with your shows with Jen Stewart, and you were talking about Blackout and how you went into the chat and you help him, and then somebody was like, you're like, I'm going to get him to make a prank call. Why did he quit, I guess, is my question. Like, did he quit or did he just stop doing it?
The thing with Blackout, he's got, I don't want to say issues. I think anyone in the prank call community probably has some type of issue or another, me included, myself included.
Sure.
He was kind of one of those wishy-washy, and I think he just kind of got tired of it. So he would come on and do shows, but they weren't really prank call shows. He was talking about magic and like spiritual and Buddhism and conspiracy theories and all this stuff. I think he just got kind of tired of prank calls after a while, so he would kind of disappear for a while, and he'd come back and say he wanted to do a show, and it never really went anywhere. He's kind of he's a different kind of guy, so to say. He's done a lot of acting work. Then I know he moved to New York and had little bits here and there, little parts in plays and little movie productions and stuff. But I think he just kind of moved on from it. He probably got tired of it, to be honest with you, just the trolling and the bullshit that comes with the territory. I can't say I blame him.
Sure.
But yeah, at some point, he kind of got out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, give me a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, I got a phone call.
Oh, it's okay.
Back.
All right. You're back?
Yeah, I'm back. You can edit that out, right? I'm guessing.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, my next, I have so many questions for you about this, the network. When you got into prank calls with PCU, and then, you had your own show, and somewhere along there you had done the 98.6 The Mouth. which is funny because you can't. 98.6 is not available ever. But another question I have is like, where did you get original prank calls? When did Milkman become involved with this? What happened there? I know that he was getting those phone cards for you as well. So what you want to explain that a little bit for me, and then we can get into 98.6 The Mouth, and then we'll go on to the new stuff.
Okay, yeah, we can do Milkman first. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, with Milkman, he was listening my first show. He was just in the crowd listening, and he was private messaging me, just saying, "Hey, you're really funny, this and that." And I really didn't have any more contacts in PCU. I mean, I knew I was in the chat room, but really didn't know that many people. And he seemed like a really cool dude, really friendly. And we talked. He helped me actually get into. He helped me configure. I want to say it was Trillion is what I used to use back then.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me configure. I could use IRC with Trillion because I didn't want to use a separate IRC client from my messaging and whatnot. He helped me out with that, and I said, "Hey, would you? He told me I've got experience in college radio," and I was like, "Hey, you want to?" I was like, "Yeah, screw it. Do you want to come on with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
So yeah, he started listening to the first show I did, and the week after that, he basically became my co-host and never left.
Right. I mean, you've had
here and there little spells where he was gone for whatever reason or another, but
right.
He's always been he's pretty much my best friend or one of my best friends. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you had other hosts throughout. You had what was it? Tucker Mike, a host, or was he just a regular guest?
Tuck, at some point, Tuck, I considered him staff. I consider him like a third co-host, like the third chair, so to say. So
right.
And he did co-hosting duties. I would consider him a co-host.
Okay.
He eventually went on to do other things. Originally, I wanted him on there because he seemed like a nice guy, and he had his whole comic book project. So I kind of wanted to help him out.
Sure.
With that, and he kept just kind of co-hosting with me and.
Yeah.
So I would consider him a co-host. Yeah, we had several back in the early days. Clone Homegrown was one who we never talk about, I know.
Why is that? I guess.
He just, that guy, I don't know why I chose him to be a co-host. I just put him on for the hell of it, and that became the start of a whole animosity between me and KDK. He didn't like him because he made anti-gay remarks all the time, and they started fighting, and that was the beginning of a lot of shit. And then there was the whole Dr. Lego split up, and he took their side and all that.
Right. There's a lot of drama that goes with this shit. I mean, you don't think about it.
God, yeah, and that's the major reason why I'm at where I'm at now, with where I'm moving on from this last 10 years of how I do and do prank calls for everybody. I'm sure we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, now we can go into, when you made up that fake 98.6 The Mouth and, explain some of that. I mean, that rubbed KDK the wrong way, too, didn't it, when you came out with that?
Well, basically, I was, for months leading into that, the PCU thing, that big expansion that KDK started, he put out the call for new hosts, and out of that came myself, Zolar, Dr. Lego, Billy Mira was a comedian from New York who did a lot of stuff on the House show. He was doing shows. Reclude came out of that. He was doing shows for a little bit there. So we had a pretty good network going there. And just that there was a lot of infighting going on between Lego. Lego had aspirations to make this network bigger than it really could have been at that point. He had really grandiose plans for what it was. KDK had his own plans for it. Zolar kind of playing both sides. I'm stuck in the middle. So for months leading up to this, you had basically these little pot shots on the air, Lego calling KDK out, KD calling Lego out, Zolar calling everybody out. And it was constantly KDK would come up and say, well, I'm quitting, and there'd be a show, and KDK's Lego would call, and they would argue for an hour on a Saturday night, and in the end they would make up and do a few pranks together. And this would go on and on, weeks and weeks. So at some point, I was like, I remember I was at work. I used to work at a call center at this point. I was on Instant Messenger and talking to Tuck, and I was like, we're just really tired of this shit, you know. And I said, you know what? We should make up our own network and just fuck with everybody. So that's where 98.6 The Mouth came from, because I said, you know what? Let's start our own bullshit network and let's call it something really obnoxious. So we said 98.6 The Mouth, and we had this really cheesy jingle created within. It took less than 15 minutes for me, Earth Dog, this guy that used to be around, to put it together. And I basically came on and just announced my own network and just some really stupid ideas and kept repeating this really cheesy jingle with crunchy guitar in it, you know, and it gave out a website for it, which made no sense. When you hear 98.6themouth.com, well, you're like, how do you get to that? Is it a subdomain, 98.6? Do you spell it out? A lot of people were in on the joke. A lot of people weren't. Like, for months, people would hear that on the podcast. How do I get to? Is that a real? Like, how do you get to it? So, yeah, the joke was on everybody. Really, we had. I literally laughed myself to sleep that night. It was, my wife told me we were engaged at that point, but she told me, like, I was really drunk that night because I drank that whole show, and I gigged the entire time until I finally fell asleep. I had
setup you have there, and I hope that continues to be like that. I enjoyed all your pranks with Jim Stewart, who I mentioned before. I think he is hilarious. His whole horse and pony shit is the best, I think.
I love that guy. Yeah, I don't plan for that archive to go anywhere. As long as I can keep that going, it's going to stay on.
Okay.
I don't care, yeah. Even if I don't do any live shows for forever and ever, I'll try to keep that up as long as I can.
Yeah, it's just what's get us through the day here. Another thing I want to talk about, too, is when you came in, and then how long was it after? Because I know Zolar, I read somewhere that Zolar wanted in on 98.6 The Mouth, because was he in on it or no?
No, he wasn't in on it. The only people that were in on it were myself, Milkman. No, you know what? Actually, I don't think Milkman was in on it at all. I didn't tell him until like halfway through the show. He thought it was for real. And when we took a break, I was like, Milkman, look, this is fake. Or he's like, oh, okay. He thought it was for real. I think it was me, Tuck, and then the guy Earth Dog, who did production work here and there. Those were the only three that were in on it. Really, everyone else thought it was a real thing. Some people figured it out. Obviously, it was bullshit, but
right.
Yeah.
How long after that was?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Zola really thought it was. He actually reached out to me to say, "Hey, can I get in on that?" Like, well, you got to audition. He's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, he was. I've heard some of his shit on Howard Stern before too. I've listened to that in the past. I started out listening to, and they're not good compared to Jerky Boys, but the Crank Yankers, which I don't really like. I thought they were kind of stupid, but. Some of their shit was funny, though. But mostly Jerky Boys. But then I heard some stuff on Howard Stern, and then recently, like I said, I just Googled prank calls, and this came up, so I was happy with it. Yeah. How long after that was...
Crank Kickers, the Jimmy Florentine stuff is great on Crank Kickers. Other than that, yeah. It's okay. I like Jimmy Florentine a lot.
Yeah.
I think his prank call stuff is great. He's got a new album. He's got a new prank call album just came out.
Really?
Yeah, he was on the he was on the Opie and whatever it is now.
Opie and Anthony?
He was on there talking about it. Well, it's Opie and Jim Norton now, I guess. But he was talking about it there. He said so I got to check that out.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out too. I'll have to figure it out and see what I can get from that. The next thing is with RBCP, he was on PLA, Phone Losers. What happened there? Like, how did that come together as well with PCN?
Brad and I, for the longest, there were a lot of mutual fans. I didn't really know much about PLA until that time, but there were a lot of mutual fans in my chat room who were fans of Madhouse and were fans of Brad. So every once in a while, I get someone saying, "Oh, have you heard Brad? Have you heard this, that?" So I finally started checking out his stuff. And at one point, there was the famous. episode where I got raided, where the police show up at my house for calling the help crisis line, and Brad heard about it and he write up on the PLA site, on the phone loser site about it, and he reached out to him saying, "Hey, you know, is it all right if I talk about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And we kind of look here and there, and about a year later, I just reached out to him and said, "Hey, what do you think about us kind of like, you know, working together and see if we can increase our stuff together?" That was back in '09, I think.
Mm-hmm.
End of 2009, beginning of 2010. And yeah, we kind of just came together at that point and, you know, worked together for a few years. We founded PCN together. So yeah, it all came about from that RAID show, as it's called, or the crisis hotline crisis.
I just listened to that. I listened to it over and over again, and then it just cuts off, obviously, after like 44 minutes. What happened there? Like, you called the hotline, and then they come raid your place. How do you continue after that, after knowing that you actually got caught? You know, like, walk me through that.
I'm going to give you an exclusive that nobody outside of maybe one or two people, well, maybe 3 or 4 people know.
Okay.
What happened with that? All right, so the story goes, I'm doing prank calls, right? I legitimately talked to this lady at a crisis hotline. She traces, you know, she calls back the number. I used to use an outgoing Google voice line back then.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we were able to play voice. It was me and Hollywood Vanya back then. To be honest, what happened was, for whatever reason, it just worked out perfectly. For whatever reason, I dialed the number. I don't know if I misdialed or the number was wrong or whatever it was, but it went through to some kind of back 911, somewhere out there. I don't know where it was. And I said, "Oh, shit, I'm going to take a break." So I took a break, you know, playing my music on my break and stuff like that. And literally all that happened, this is all that happened, and a lot of people probably get pissed off when they hear this. I was just really tired, and I fell asleep at my desk during the break. So the playlist for the break ends, it plays the rejoin music, the next song starts playing, and it goes into silence because I'm asleep. I'm just asleep, sitting at my desk with my headphones on and my microphone off. And I get woken up by Hollywood Vanya. Calling me, is like, "Dude, are you okay?" I'm like, "What? What's up?" It's like, "Yeah, like everyone in the chat room was freaking because that last call went to 911. You took a break and you never came back." I'm like, "Oh shit, I just fell asleep. That's all it is. That's all that ever happened." And Vanya's like, "Dude, you should just tell people that the police showed up." Like, "All right, cool. I'm just gonna shut off the show right now." So all I did was shut off the show.
Oh, it's amazing.
All right, no worry. So Hollywood's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna tell everyone that like something's up." So within the next few days, Hollywood goes into the Madhouse forums and posts that he had heard from my wife Athena that the police has shown up, and I posted all this shit about stuff happening. The whole community blew up. Like, "Oh my God, Carlito, this." I was doing shows on Syndicate Radio at that point, so Zolar and all these people like, "Carlito, we're gonna bust you out." Dr. Lego is talking to his brother-in-law, who's a Jewish lawyer somewhere. I almost said that word. He's a lawyer. Like, they were gonna, like, the Syndicate Radio guys were gonna get a fund for me to get me bailed out if anything happened. So that was kind of the impetus of me getting hooked up with Brad, and it's all been based on a lie this whole time. It's been years now. That was like 6 years ago, 7 years at this point. So
you're living a lie, man.
I've been living a lie to say that my street cred for that has actually been bullshit this whole time. It was just another ruse, a 98.6 mouth ruse on everyone. Very few. I think I told Milkman. Because I figured he'd freak out. I told Talk about it. Yeah, I told those guys. Brad didn't even know until like 3 years later. I was like, he was talking to me about it. It's like, "Carlito, like, what happened? Like, what should I do? This situation." Like, "Dude, to be honest with you, that was fake." It's like, "What?" Like, "Yeah, it was fake. It wasn't real." It's like, "You bastard! Like, our friendship is based on nothing." And
then the New Year's Day episode after that happened, and you said your cameras weren't working because of the raid. So that was just a little more magic in the lie.
I'm a habitual liar. Yeah, it's funny because I had a dresser, this cheap dresser I bought at Walmart years ago.
Yeah. And
when we moved it into my condo, it had broken apart. So I took a picture of it and posted it. Said, "Yeah, look what the cops did to my dresser. Look at the drugs." Yeah. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, those fucking pigs."
That's amazing.
That's it. Yeah, there's your exclusive. Big news. Everyone's going to hate me now, but...
Right. If I had a breaking news sound, I'd play it, but right now, I don't. But we'll get to it eventually. We'll be popular eventually. No, that's amazing, actually. That's if I could leave the show off, like, right there, I would. Just kidding. Next on the slate, I guess, looking back at your old pranks, we'll get some of this history of the pranks at the end. My favorite prank, I really enjoy the Deborah Mansfield calls. I really enjoy the Turkish diner, was it?
The Turkish horse, that guy?
Yes. And he's like, I'll fuck you, and I'll fuck your mom and your horse and your ponies. And, oh, my God, that was amazing. He's like, you'll be able to tell by my bulging tent. And I was like, oh, my God, this is great.
Yeah, there's good stories behind both of those, actually. But, yeah, keep going.
Oh, man, give me everything. I mean, those are my favorite calls. I also really enjoy Ernie and his horse. I emailed you. I have not. The horse is a different meaning for me now. When everybody says horse, I just think of horse. So tell me about those calls. And tell me what some of the stories behind those are.
All right, I'll start with Debbie. Debbie is Milkman's ex-girlfriend. Was friends with Debbie. Not friends, but I think they worked together or in some capacity. And that was just passed on through her to Milkman to me. And she's an awesome lady. We've lost her. We can't find her anywhere anymore. Towards the end, she figured out what was going on. Because if you listen closely to some of those calls, I'm sure it's still in the shows. And here she says, "Yeah, I know that that fucking fat bitch and this and that." That's who she's talking about because she figured out. That's where that comes from. So, yeah, that's a friend of Milkman's ex-girlfriend who still listens to the show, but
yeah,
that's where those came from. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with her.
Yeah.
The other, who was that? Who did you say?
The Turkish diner, Turkish horse.
Turkish horse. That was just me. What I call throwing darts at Google Maps. I found the Turkish restaurant or whatever. That guy got so many calls, not from me, but there was at some point with the show, I think we've gotten so big to the point where people figure out or go out of their way to figure out who we're calling. Mm-hmm. Now it's in an effort to kind of troll me and get me in trouble. But this guy, I guess, was receiving so many phone calls. He called the police department and had an investigator call me and have a conversation with me on the phone. I talked to the guy. He's like, "Yeah, so are you the guy that's calling this guy now?" Look, if I'm calling the guy, I'm only calling him like on a Sunday. Yeah. Well, he's getting calls like nonstop to his phone every other day, every day at this point. Like, look, those aren't me.
No.
But yeah, we actually came to an agreement between me and this investigator and the horse guy that we would stop. I would stop promoting people to call him anymore on the air. So, and I've never heard back, so I guess maybe people finally got tired of it. I don't know if the guy probably still gets phone calls. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I stopped calling the guy. I have a gentleman's agreement where I was going to leave him alone. I'm convinced the guy's going to kill me if I ever walk in his restaurant. I can't, because this is in the town that Milkman lives in, and like I've talked, Milkman and I talk about me going to, hang out with him and all this stuff, and we're always like, yeah, we got to go to the Turkish horse to get some food and shit. But yeah, I can't open my mouth. Like, I'm going to have to act like I'm strep, and you're going to have to do the ordering, because if he hears my voice, he's either going to poison my food or he's going to pull up a long curved sword and chop my hand off or something,
Yeah. Well, he probably wants you to suck his dick. I mean, he had a huge cock from what I remember.
Yeah, well, yeah, he didn't fuck me like a horse. Yeah, yeah, really. Does. Yeah, well, that guy got harassed. Charlie in Honolulu.
Oh, I love him too.
It's been, yeah, he's another one that it went way beyond what you've heard on Madhouse. His calls to him have gone way beyond the scope. I mean, he's become like a legend outside of Madhouse, where people have from all, like, I've been online and just typed in like Dewdrop in, and you can find like people I've never heard of before or heard their, I don't know who the fuck they are, and they're like doing their best impersonations, calling him and saying, fuck you son of a bitch, and he'll get mad and yell back or whatever. So it gets out there. Yeah.
And his wife.
I've always tried my best.
Go ahead.
I've always tried my best not to let out as much information as I can. It's already, it's already bad enough that I'm bothering these people. I'm trying not to make it, but sometimes it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Just fun with it.
His wife picks up the phone and just plays music, or she just says one thing and then it's like nothing. I mean, she was onto it after a while too.
She bangs pots and pans sometimes too. She hasn't done that to me in a while, but she will bang the shit out of pots and pans. Yeah.
When's the last time you called Charlie?
He doesn't really talk. I usually don't get him anymore. It's been at least a year and a half, I think. Yeah. I think the last few times I tried, he had some younger guy, American guy, answering the phone, and they know about the pranks now. It's like, oh, well, whatever. I've heard the other, like, I think Ken, Dwight, and them, they've called him, and I guess his son kind of has taken over the business a little bit more.
Sure.
And he's more ruthless than Charlie is, but he has a more of an Americanized accent. He's not as, funny to talk to, but he's like ruthless. Yeah, we've got a few contacts in Honolulu who have been offering to go down there and like kind of take video or pictures while we call. I've passed on it. Might be coming in the pipe pretty soon.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. That might be coming soon. But
I love the Honolulu calls. Honestly, I really like who's the guy from Lowe's? Chris from Lowe's.
Chris. Yeah.
So.
Your guy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think he's really good.
Cool. I love that guy too.
And then the free firewood is always a big one to call after, and
yeah. Oh, that's more of a Ken thing, but yeah, the guy, the volcano guy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, there's so many pranks out there. I mean, if you had to go and list, what was your worst experience with a prank that you may have made, besides, obviously now, breaking news from the past, we know the raid was not a raid. But what was your worst, I guess, experience with a prank call?
Worst experience as a prank call? I was the Turkish horse guy, like finally getting someone to investigate me and find me and all that, and having to work that. That was pretty bad. I know. Well, in general, when the PrankNet stuff happened, when that started, I was working for a telecom provider at that point, and Dex called them, and he got them to. He basically called and said, hey, yeah, I'm the owner of XYZ Hotel. Phones are loud. Can you please transfer to this number? And it was this number. So they started an internal investigation as to why did this happen and internet prankers and all this and that. And somehow I came up in that. So I was like, my boss at the time, he knew about the show. And he sat me down. I was like, hey, man, look, like they're looking into internet prankers, and they're probably going to find you. Like I'm kind of worried that they're going to figure it out because you upload your shows and stuff from work on the weekends. Like, yeah. So that kind of hit close to home. That was kind of a close thing.
Right.
I think the worst experience has been from the trolling from the community in the last few years. A lot of the personal doxing and stuff like that. That's probably been the worst. And that's really the main reason why we've taken the decisions we've taken here in the last few days.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a second. What kind of role has social media, the launch of social media, Twitter, all of that over the past few years played into your prank calls? I know you guys sometimes make the Comcast calls. I know Dwight makes more of those than you do, it seems. But how big of a role has social media played in your prank calls?
Yeah, well, definitely the Comcast, like the Twitter complainers and stuff like that, that's been a whole genre upon itself. I haven't done as much of those, but that's been a big one. Just really, for me, for the longest, I didn't care for Facebook. I didn't really have a presence on there maybe until 2010. Facebook maybe started for me, from my experience, maybe around '08 was when Facebook started getting some headway. So I think the ability to kind of reach out to people through social media has been kind of great. Because I know for me, like in 5, when I went to start a show, my thing, I started the show and I would open up AOL Instant Messenger and send a mass message to everybody. Hey, Carlito's going on. Go to madhouselive.com or whatever to listen. That slowly became replaced by me making a Facebook post that said the same thing, having much more of a reach. I had more of a personal experience with the fans, I would say, and an easier ability to get numbers and ideas and stuff sent from the fans. So social media definitely has helped out with that. I was an early adopter to Twitter. That's how I ended up with the username Madhouse. It's really hard to get something like that these days. I think I joined Twitter in late 2006, I think I want to say, maybe early '07. And there was barely anybody on at that point. I was just a big fan of the Twit network back then. Back then it was just Leo Laporte and the Twitch Joe.
Sure.
He was an early adopter of Twitter, and I said, well, let me make sure I have a presence on here. And at some point that just blew up. So, I think for the most part, social media, it's had its benefits just in, the ability, like anyone would say, just the ability to reach out to your audience and get more feedback that way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I know that you've had troubles with Skype in the past, or you don't use Skype anymore for your calls?
Do not use Skype. No, I'm completely banned at some level from Skype, where if they see me connect to any from any which way, after I make 1 or 2 calls, it's cut off.
How does that happen?
I think that started with the Turkish horse. I think that came out of that. It seemed to be the case when he started really, pushing the pedal towards getting back at me. I think that kind of happened. But to me, like, I was tired of wasting $20, $30 on a new Skype account, unlimited, for them to just turn around and block it. Right. Plus the fact that, when Skype got bought by Microsoft, and of course they were involved, that whole whatever that's called, whatever that plan was with the IT providers and the U.S. government giving us information. What was it called?
Yeah,
Prism program. Yeah, that one I was like, that was a slow aspect of me leaving Skype. And for the longest, I didn't care for Skype. Like, you could ask me and Milkman, we were like, Skype sounds like shit. When we first started doing the show, there were some people that were like, oh yeah, Skype is so cool and this and that. The quality back then was so crappy. The software itself would adjust your audio automatically. Even if you set it not to adjust your settings, it would. So we stuck to copper lines. We just had a regular landline, and I had it with all this old equipment connected to my mixer and using phone cards, and then it was Google Voice at a certain point. And finally I was like, Skype started getting a little better. I saw that other people like Zolar were able to use it, so then I went to that, and it was great for me because before, for me to do a show, and you can hear on some of those old shows, it was me on a cordless phone. I would have to program the number to dial and the code number into the memory of the phone. So there was a long break in between calls when I said, all right, I'm going to call so-and-so, and there was music playing, and I had to, pick up a number and dial the number and then wait for it to answer, dial the code, wait for that to go through, and then punch in the number, and then finally the call would start. So you easily had like sometimes up to 3, maybe 4 minutes if I fat fingered something along the way between calls. That's where a lot of music in there. Fucking with Skype, it was like copy paste, go, done. Like, it was such a improvement as far it changed the show. Yeah. Unfortunately, things just don't work with Skype anymore. And then I ended up finding cheaper options anyway. Through SIP trunk providers and stuff like that. Yeah. Much better experience, the ability to change your caller ID on the fly, stuff like that. Yeah. So the show, it evolved. It's evolved as best as I can. I keep it evolving with the technology. Learned a lot from Brad. Brad knows telephony stuff. Yeah, so whatever. Brad usually tests the stuff out first. He perfects it, and I copy it.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say that. That's what I'm doing.
You're not using an Xbox headset anymore?
No, oh, yeah, that's how it's. Yeah, that was an Xbox headset, a broken Xbox One headset, not Xbox One, the original Xbox.
The original.
A broken one, taped with masking tape to another mic. I would sit it on the desk. So if you can imagine me, I would have to like hover over my desk. I was talking down onto the desk. I would put like a little hand towel on top to kind of, get rid like a little make impromptu pop filter.
Right.
It's really rudimentary back then. But we had so much fun,
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with it. Regardless, we always had fun with it.
That's awesome.
Maximum 20, 30 people listening live, and I still didn't care. I still had fun. I had just as much fun as I have today, doing shows for over 100. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you've gotten a big... Go ahead.
No, yeah. One person in the chat, with all this drama going on, with people leaving the network, someone in the chat room had the I don't know what to say, but they came out and said, "Oh, what are you going to do when now that you're losing all your hosts and you're going to lose all your listeners?" I said, "You know what? I have just as much fun or more doing it by myself, just me and Milkman in a chat room with 10, 15, 20 people inside live. I could care less. I'll go back to that and be just as happy if I have to, It doesn't faze me."
That's what I want to get into news stuff here because, I mean, that's why we're doing this. But I also want to get, a history for my show, and then I'm sure your listeners would like that too.
Sure.
I was listening to Dwight the other day after his first show after Pranksgiving, and it was cut off, and I don't know why, but he said, "Thank D9." Who's D9 and what happened there? Do you know anything?
I'm going to... man, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I haven't listened. I'll be honest with you. The day of Pranksgiving, I left. Like, I haven't heard any shows since then.
Oh, sure.
I couldn't tell you. D9. I'm trying to even remember who D9 is. Yeah, probably I'm guessing they probably did something. Usually, when that happens, it means, like I was saying before, someone probably ratted Dwight out for a prank he did. Just, I mean, for some reason, people like doing it. I think it's funny to call behind me or Ken or whoever and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, you got a call from, Ken's real first and last name. Here's their website. Go listen to their call at home while you're at it. Here's their home phone number." This shit happens a lot now. I would guess I haven't talked. I mean, I've been talking to Ken. He hasn't mentioned that to me. I haven't heard any shows since Jayad signed off on Pranksgiving. I haven't been in the chat room since Pranksgiving.
Oh, sure.
Do I really want to be in the chat room? Yeah. And you can keep this on the air. I don't care if people know. I mean, it's obvious. Calito hasn't been in the chat room since Pranksgiving. Yeah. So, yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah, you got to do it. I mean, you got to live life, too. I mean, people need to understand that there's a life outside of prank calls. I mean, you have a wife, right? And you have a couple cats.
For now?
For now.
Those are my babies, yeah. Dobby and Chloe. Dobby's here right now on my feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good, man. I mean, that's life. I mean, you got to live yourself.
In the end, I learned a lot from KDK.
Yeah.
He left the community because it was bullshit. I feel bad because of the shit that me and Brad would pull here and there just for lulz, kind of. But KDK is my friend. You know what I mean? I go back with him years. Yeah. He's gone through what he's gone through. He's matured a lot, I want to say. I don't talk to KDK on a regular basis. I haven't talked to him since after my 10-year anniversary show in July, which I was very happy came on. I mean, that was real touching that he was on there, got to talk like that. And so many people were like, "Damn, we didn't know KDK was like that. Like, he's a really cool dude."
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really touched a lot on the whole history with KDK and our falling out and all that, but
I mean, if you want to, we can. But I mean,
sure, yeah. Hey,
yeah, let's do that, and then we'll get into recent news. With KDK, I mean, after everything, give me a rundown of what happened between you two that maybe caused some tension. And I know that Milkman he was sticking up for his hermano, and I know that there was a thing between them too, and there was that Christmas song that KDK had sung to Milkman, and they kind of talked a little bit after that, but I'd like to hear more. So when you have the floor, go ahead.
I'm back. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So.
I pulled the cable. Give me a quick second. I'll be right back. I pulled the cable. I got to plug it back in so you don't have an echo. Give me a second.
Okay.
Test. How do I sound?
You sound great.
Oh. Did it again.
Oh, no.
Test. There we go.
There we go.
I can do this. I'm a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so where were we? We were Milkman, the KDK, Milkman Fall on the Ground song? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened? Yeah. So, I mean, we can do the whole run. This is fun. I like doing this.
Yeah.
With So, of course, right. So I start with PCU 2005. I explained how we had the whole, drama here and there. The 98.6, the mouth thing happens, et cetera, et cetera. At some point, KDK has enough. We got Dr. Lego, who, I mean, again, when I'm going to talk here about Lego, Zolar, KDK, these guys, I love them like family, all right? We came up together in this whole game. They're friends. Mm-hmm. All three of them were invited to my wedding. Only Lego can make it, but all three of them were invited to my wedding.
Yeah.
I consider them friends. So no animosity with them, even KDK, even after all these years. We're over it. We've in the past. We respect each other. Around 2006, really started going through some stuff, and the main focus of that was his breakup with Keith, a.k.a. K-Bone, who was another host on PCU, who was his longtime boyfriend. I'm not going to get into the particulars of that. It's his business to talk about. But when that happened, KDK kind of got into a drinking issue, the well-known drinking issue. He had a lot of depression, threatening suicide. Life just happened to him. At the same time, you have Lego, who had aspirations, just like so many people later on would have when it came to myself and PCM stuff. Lego wanted to take up the mantle, have his own network, run it his way, thought he could do it better. So Lego starts Prank Call Radio. Was that it? Yeah, Prank Call Radio. The acronyms. They jumble in my head. So there's this big split. There's what I call the first great schism. You had Lego starts PCR, Zolar goes over with him. He's going to remain PCU. I'm in the middle, and I decided to play both sides. Was it the right thing to do, the best thing to do? Probably not. I was kind of a bitch. But you know what? Like I'm gonna play both sides. In my head, I'm like, I don't really give a shit. Like I'm only like less than a year into this point. If I stop doing prank call shows, no big deal. I got a life. I got my own thing going on, a career. I'm not gonna make any money off of this. It's not a big deal. So I said, I'm gonna play both sides. So I'm gonna be the one who's gonna do shows on PCU and PCR. I don't give a fuck. So KDK. Lego too, but KDK really had a problem. KDK's like, pick a side, it's like, come on, man, like, we're, come on, like, you're kind of leaving me hanging here. I did it more to kind of like, because KDK would come at me too, like, he was directing anger towards me. He would get on the air and take little pot shots at me. The one thing that really pissed me off about KDK during this time is I would be doing a show, and here you've got the leader of the network would go into the chat room and say, oh, Carlito, he's always playing prank music. It sucks. Prank music, rap music this, rap music that. Prank callers don't like rap music, this and that. And it just kept consistently coming at me with all this shit and all, So I took it for months because basically KDK would get drunk and he would say fucking nasty shit about me either during my show or during his show. And he would the next be sad about it. He'd apologize to me and this and that. And I'm like, all right, KDK, no problem, man. Like, whatever. I know it's just you. We're cool, whatever. We'll move on. At some point, I finally got tired of it. It's, like I was like, enough is enough. By this point, Lego was like, this is stupid. Like Lego, he's like an actual businessman. This guy, he's got a web hosting service. He's got a data center, a co-location he runs in Long Island rather. He's like, this prank call thing is stupid. It's technically anyway. I'm not going to get into this shit. So he gets out of the game. So in the end, it's just me and KDK. That's all that's left because everything's burnt up. Zolar is like, I'm not working with that KDK motherfucker anymore. Zolar's doing his own thing on whatever video. He went to Syndicate Radio or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And then KDK getting into it with me. I think KDK had like a lot of animosity and still kind of pissed off over the way things went. And I finally at one point said, KDK said to me, well, you should just leave. Like he would every week. KDK would get drunk on a Saturday. He'd call me out on the show, and he'd say I should leave, and the next day he'd apologize. So this happens again. He does it again. And the next day he's trying to apologize to me like, no, fuck you, KDK, I'm dumb. Like, I'm just going to go on my own.
Yeah.
The Madhouse Network now. I'm over it.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, shit. Like, all right. So that's kind of where we went with that. At that point I had this, break up between me and KDK. And, ever since then, KDK never really, it just became a thing where KDK I think he's, and I see where he was coming from now, to the point where you see yourself doing shows because you've got that following, and you put something up over the years, and you feel an obligation to the fans to go on and make people laugh, and like it's your kingdom almost. You got your 80, 90, 100 people listening to you a week.
Right.
So you don't want to give that up to anybody, but you're forcing yourself to do it. You're not having fun with it anymore, and that's kind of where KDK got. At that point. So he slowly, eventually, at this point, I don't think he's done a show in maybe 2 years. The last 2 years of him doing shows, he really didn't do prank calls. He maybe did a call a night, if that, at that point. Mm-hmm. I forgot where we were going with this.
Well, I just want to know your history with him, and I mean, obviously, yeah. And I heard some things in the past about how KDK with his shows, he always played the same music over and over again. He would play the same pranks. He'd be drunk all the time. It wasn't entertaining. It was getting stale to a point. When's the last time he recorded his show?
Abusive towards his fans.
Yeah.
And the thing, like, then I was like, hey man, like, you come in and you say that I play rap music and it sucks. You play the same 5 Family Guy bits, like you play the same Family Guy bits and the same punk songs, It's like you're calling the kettle black here. Like right. Come on, man. Like, what's up, But yeah, after he stopped doing his shows, I went on with Madhouse on my own, started my own network, moved on, and we kept in touch after that. But there was the period of time where like Brad was just like, this guy fucking, because KDK, like, he saw me and Brad getting along together and starting our networking thing together and really growing this. And I think KDK had this feeling where like, well, Carlito, you want to be anywhere without me. Well, okay, yeah. I mean, you gave me my shot, right? You gave me a place to start out.
Right.
But to me, it's not like, I can't say that you invented, he was like, I invented all this and everything's a copy. And Carlito wouldn't, wouldn't be anything without me. And like, I kind of made my own. Like, I was alone for a while. Like I put my time in. Don't come out and saying just because I'm the new guy on the block that I gotta give some kind of respect to you,
right?
Or you can just roll up for me all the time.
Yeah.
Then he started going after Brad all the time. Like he started calling Brad RVPP, which is stupid. But he I don't think KDK understood Brad. Like mm-hmm. Brad goes back. Brad is old school. He's like, we're going back like 90s, even before that. Brad's had a following. Brad's been entertaining people longer than I've been on the internet.
I think I read online, was it the 94 that he's been around, or?
Yeah, I think PLA started in 94, yeah, something like that. But even before that, he was in the scene.
Right.
With his red boxing or blue, whatever it is, bread boxing and all that stuff. And the zines and all that stuff. He's been known in the community. He's got a big following, something that I would aspire to ever have, but probably never will get.
Right. But
I don't think he understood that, and it was like, well, Brad copies RVPP copies everything I do. Brad's like, motherfucker. Brad just dials it up on KDK over the course of months. I mean, I don't know if we should be talking about this, but like I'm talking like just making KDK miserable when he's on the air. It's knocking him off the internet, not DDoSing him, but basically social engineering to the point where maybe Comcast restarts his modem regularly, just stuff like that while he's on the air.
That's pretty amazing. That's actually pretty
I felt
good.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of those shows, like, Brad's like telling me, like, yeah, well, tonight I got a list of all of KDK's neighbors. And I'm going to call and say I'm KDK. I got a package from them, and they need to come the fuck over here and pick it up right now. So there's one show where you hear the door keeps knocking, and it's KDK's neighbors asking for their package. And that night, I felt so bad for Dave, for KDK, because he called me like, Carlito, man, like, can you tell the phone losers? Can you call the phone losers off? I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, man, they're like really blowing me out. And I'm like, all right, man, all right. I'm sorry. And then Brad was like, all right, we'll leave him alone. So yeah, and then after that, like, still, like, I can't hate. I mean, even going through what we went through, KDK is still my friend. I still have a tremendous amount of appreciation for him, for giving me inspiring me to start my show, giving me a place to start my show.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, just for the support, early support. And really, he is a pioneer when it comes to prank calls on the internet. I mean, he was one of the first ones. He's up there with Lego, who started in '96, and Blackout, who started in '94. He's one of the old salt dogs, as I say. So
yeah.
You gotta have respect. I mean, you gotta know your roots. And we went through our thing, but I have tremendous amount of respect for KDK. I have a lot of love for him. He's still a friend. We pick on each other, but fuck it, he's still family to me.
That's good.
And everyone out there should respect him too. God damn it.
That's the best, man. You were talking about KDK, and I haven't had a chance to listen to any of his shows yet, but I know his website. He's an original Salt Dog, but his website really needs some work. That's like,
and this is a guy who told me and Lego that our sites look like GeoCity sites from the early '90s, and this guy, his site is like, fuck, like he hasn't done it. It's like bad. It doesn't even have frames on it. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's even updated it for the longest, to be honest with you. But the guy has the biggest repository of soundboards. He's got a huge number. I mean, he always talked about his Alexa ratings, which, to be honest, no one really gives a shit about Alexa. Hasn't given a shit about Alexa for years.
Yeah.
But he's known in the community, and he's KDK. He's a unique individual. He, in every sense of the word, he is like, when you think of guys, he's like, to me, he's like the Kanye West of prank calls. Like, he is that he is God of pranks.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit of what you think about what my shit is. I'm the best there is, and you kind of have to have that. When you're doing shit like this, you have to have that attitude, and he fucking does it, man.
Yeah.
He does it. He's 100. When he's on, I'll tell you what. When he's on the ball, the guy is funny.
Yeah.
Problem is, for the longest, he's just been drinking a lot. I can't speak to the last year and a half because he really hasn't been around.
Yeah.
I get the impression he's doing a lot now, and that's probably why he doesn't give a shit about prank calls really that much anymore. I hope he comes back. I tried to encourage him during the anniversary show. Hey man, like, come to PCN even. He's like, nah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But still, yeah.
I mean, you don't hold a grudge, it seems. It might have some history back there where it's like, sketchy, and then I understand that, people side with you. Do you run into problems with your fans trolling on KDK? Obviously, he had the issues with, not the issues with PLA, but with, like, trolling him because he was talking shit about them. So, but do you have those issues anymore?
I encouraged it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was encouragement from me, and I feel bad for that. I mean, I let it go for way too long, and that's why I was happy with the anniversary show that he could come on my show, and I could say, hey, look, this is the KDK. He's good people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so many people, like I said before, so many people like, damn, like, all we knew about KDK was what you and Brad said, that he was a psychopath, stuck at prank calls. You know, but this guy has a history. Like, I had him talk about the Stern stuff. I had him going. Like, he was back in form for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I remember listening to that show recently, and he said, oh, yeah, I'll start a show. And then he was like, I could start tomorrow if I wanted to. He still had all the stuff available for it, so.
Yeah, that's KDK, man. That's the Kanye of pranks. He's still there, man.
He's like, when I think of Kanye, I think of gay fish. So, I mean, I'm trying not to say gay.
Yeah, well, there's that. Well, there you go. Yeah, say bye, because he's really big on that.
Right.
I used to get mad. I used to call him a so-called bisexual. That was the line I got off of King of the Hill. He would get so mad at that. Oh, man. He was convinced that I was, like, anti-gay. I'm like, I don't know if most people know, but I'm a socialist. I don't know if I should really be saying that a lot. But I'm very liberal. I'm very left-wing.
Yeah.
Especially the last 8 years of my life. I am the furthest from racist or anti-homophobic, anti-Semitic. I say some really racist, anti-homophobic, anti-Semitic shit. But when it comes to my real life, you can ask my wife, I'm the furthest from that. Like, you know. And he knows that. He was just looking for reasons. But for a while, he was just convinced that I hated gay people and I hated him and all this stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue, because the next thing I was going to get into is, how does your wife feel about all these, you know, the years on Madhouse? You know, I mean, you were dating her by the second episode, I think, of what I listened to, and she was there with you. But, you know, how does she's supportive, obviously, over these 10 years.
Well, I mean, I was dating my wife, met her maybe about a year before the show started. So really supportive and really into it for the first 2-3 years of the show. And she was involved in all about, she listened to everything with me, like all the KDK Lego stuff. You know, she would talk to Lego, like Lego would call my house and she'd like, oh, hey, Lego, what's up? You know, same basis and all that stuff. At some point, I think she just got, like, a lot of people, you know, mainstream people, they, like, well, the prank call thing is funny, but I got other stuff to get to. I got a real life, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think maybe after our wedding, maybe within the year after that, before we made the move up north to Pennsylvania, she's got her own stuff to deal with. So, I mean, she checks in every once in a while, listens to the shows. I usually share the better prank calls with her and the drama and stuff like that, but she's always taking a stance like, you know, well, like, as long as he's doing prank calls, he's not out doing dumb shit. I'm not out drinking. I'm not out getting into troubles. Mm-hmm. Go for it. Like, she's like, Carlos, it's like, it's your one outlet a week, you know, to be like this evil guy, you know, if it grounds you, go for it. Right. And she listens to, like, she'll hear this, like, she hears me doing the shows, and she'll come in, like, during a break, like, that shit is hilarious. She's like, I didn't hear the other side, but whatever you're fucking saying, you know, it's funny. Or I'll fall asleep with my iPad on, you know, on a show. And, like, the other day, she walked in. I was already asleep. I think Matt was on. Someone was on. Mm-hmm. I was a replay of me and Matt Hillock doing a show together. And she just heard me say, what was it I said? Your mother gave birth to you like a dog in the street, which is something that we for a while. And then Matt cracks up and she's like, "Did you really just fucking say that?" And I was like, "What?" Like she's like, "You said your mother gave birth to you like a dog in the street." I'm like, "Oh yeah." And she's like, "You're fucking nuts." You and Matt both. Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like Matt. I think Matt is so hilarious.
Yeah. Oh my God, Matt. He's just. I'm really. I know me and Brad both are really close to Matt. Like, we've had our phone, like, Matt, I think now that he has a girl, he's kind of a little more grounded. But with Matt, it was always like every year he'd get mad at everybody and tell us to go fuck ourselves and stab us in the back a little bit. He's the only guy that we would always let back in, you know, like, that's just Matt. You know, how could, you know, something about him is just like, I don't know. He's just like a happy drunk, I guess. I've never heard the guy angry drunk, and he's drunk all the time. Love the guy, man. Matt's awesome.
His show, Last Track Matt, is it Zach? I'm not sure. it him or?
With Zach's, yeah, Laughter Party Time with Zach's. That is the only show that I make it a point when he's on, I'm listening. If I'm at work or if I'm off that day from work or whatever it is, I'm listening and I'm making an effort to be on live with him if he'll take me.
Yeah.
I just love that show, and it's the silliest one. It's the most unstructured show that there is. Long spells with no pranks. I don't care. I love it. I love everything about Matt and Zach's show. Yeah.
And then they have let's go through your shows right now. I mean, I really enjoy Dwight. I think his videos are funny too. My question is, how does he get away with those webcam videos? That's like I'm amazed.
Yeah, that's, I don't know if I should, there's a guy out there, I don't want to give out too much. I guess there was a known exploit with a certain manufacturer of webcams where they're open by and there was a tool created within the community for us to be able to kind of connect to them. And yeah, he's run with it. Ken/Dwight, whatever you want to call him, he has come so far since he first appeared in the community. I'm so proud of that guy. Yeah, he's a funny guy. He really loves his stuff. I feel really bad with this whole change because, I mean, he's always so supportive. I fucking love the guy. And he's like, dude, whatever you guys want to do, I'm with you. But I almost feel like I'm pulling the rug under, guys like him and Jihad, but they're both 100% with me, man.
Yeah.
When it comes to the change, but yeah, he's so funny, dude. He's one of the guys that I've seen come from just a listener to growing and doing his own show and like do to the point where he's his own stuff like BTR. That was his idea. He ran with it. The webcam stuff, he's run with it. Ken, Jihad, Brad, obviously, these are all guys who can they could start their own networks or their or whatever they wanted to do, and they'll be more than fine. Just like Zolar and KDK and Lego, they could run on their own and they're good to go.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I had some part in at least getting these guys out there.
Yeah, helping them. And I remember we're talking about Ken/Dwight. His first appearance on the Madhouse, I think, was a Thanksgiving episode or something like that, and I thought he was funny then, and he's just.
I had no idea. You're doing good. Some of this stuff better than I did. That's awesome. Was it a Thanksgiving? I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, and then the Denny's calls always get me too. So I love the Denny's calls, and the Jack Masterson is funny from you. So. Oh,
Jack. Oh man. Jack. Where I can share that with you. Where that came from?
Yes.
New Smyrna Beach, Florida. 1999. That wasn't even 2000 yet. I'm there with my ex-girlfriend, and there's this fat fucking clown at a Chinese buffet. Like we spent the day at the beach, and we're like we're hungry. Let's stop at the Chinese buffet, and we go into this really Chinese buffet in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. It's right outside of Daytona Beach, and there is this overweight, obese. 400 easy. Sitting in a chair at the sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Sitting at a chair at the end of the buffet line, blowing up balloon animals, breathing out of his mouth like that, and they must have been paying him with food, I guess, because he had like this big plate of like chicken bones next to him. And every once in a while, he'd reach over and grab like a fried chicken wing straight off the buffet line and eat it. I swear to God, man, he was taking. You know how the cartoons, like the old Looney Tunes cartoons, where the vulture would take the chicken wing or whatever, and he'd put it in his mouth and pull it out. It was nothing but a straight bone, just like that. His name was Fingers the Clown.
Oh my God!
And yeah. That's where I got the idea, because this guy was like that, talking, mouthful of food, and like making these balloons for the kids. And when did like gasping for breath just from blowing up the balloon and shit. And like my girl Stephanie was her name back then. We're like, look at this fucking guy. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, this is a fucking mess. Like, yeah, and then like 8 years later, whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, it just comes to my head. Like, yeah, I remember this guy. So I stick a marker in my mouth and start talking, like, like breathing hard. And that's where Jack Masterson came from. And Jack Masterson, man, 482 pounds, I think, was what he started at. And I think he ended up losing a little bit of weight there at some point. Yeah, fucking, I haven't done Jack. That's one of the big ones. I get a lot of requests for Jack Masterson. People never forget him. Eddie Garcia, another one.
I haven't heard Eddie Garcia.
Yeah, because the voice thing to me got gimmicky at some point, but the Eddie thing, like, I had a friend named Eddie. His name was Eddie. I forget his last. Well, I know his last. Give it out. But we were friends in high school. We were friends past high school. We would hang out and shit like that. We were like, we played Magic the Gathering together. We'd go out and shit. And he just had this like, he's just like, yo, what's up, yo? Like, he always talked like that. He was Puerto Rican. He was so fucking dumb. I've had him on the show before. He's a fan of the show. He listens to Madhouse. Like, I talk to him maybe once a year, but I'll hit him up on Facebook. Yo, Eddie, what's up? Like, I'll say, like, yo, Eddie, what's up? And like, oh, man, I hear your show. It's funny, yo. Like, why don't you do my voice no more? Like, he says that shit. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You listen to the show. He's super. I mean, he's one of my old school friends, but, man, Eddie. That's where I got that from. He straight up, like, he was, you know how Eddie Garcia was in the Army? Like, that's the whole thing.
Right.
Eddie, the real Eddie, was supposed to go in the Army. He gained so much weight from when he graduated high school to when he went to enlist that they, like, said, no, sorry, like, you don't, like, he gained a lot of weight. Like, he ended up Jack Masterson size for a while there. I think he's gotten better since then, since he met a girl and stuff, but
right.
Eddie. And so that's where thing, because I used to imagine Eddie being in the Army because he was so kind of dumb. Like, he would probably throw a grenade at the wrong side and all that shit. That's where all that came from. Yeah.
I love that. And then there's with Jack Masterson, I've done some research and how his name was John Masters, and then Milkman changed that to Jack Masterson by mispronouncing it. But Father McDugan / Father McHorders is great too. So I love that.
Yeah, but that's completely taken from Phil Henry. The Phil Henry show, that's and then that is another inspiration of mine. Phil Henry is another old radio guy who he's still on now in a different form, but he would come on the air. For those of you who don't know, he comes on the air. He has he's a master at voices. And back then, he had a regular terrestrial radio show, so he would say, I have a guest today. He had Father McQuarters was his guest. And it was like this Irish, like this weird fucking Irish Catholic priest, and he talked about molesting children like it was nothing and stuff, and he had that Irish accent. I just copied it. Like, that was a straight up copy. And I ran with it. Yeah. And that's where I got that one from.
Yeah, the Charlie in the Tub. Charlie's Phone in a Tub is obviously his classic. But you have so many characters, so many guests. In the email I mentioned to you, sometimes you listen to these people, and it seems like, not recently, but some of these guests that come on, probably not ready to make prank calls because they laughed during it. IG69 was one of those for me. I don't know what happened to him. I would love some fill-in if you have anything.
I think he grew up and discovered pussy. I mean, that's all I can. He grew up, went through puberty, and just like, we've had a few of those, like when they're young.
Yeah.
The young kids, 12, 13, they're really into it. And they grow up and are like, fuck this prank call shit. Like, I'm going to get,
get laid.
People grow up, you don't stay the same person. Unlike me, who I'm, again, I started doing pranks in my pre-teen years, and I am still doing it for some reason or another. I think he just grew up.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him in maybe a few years.
Yeah.
I mean, he came across once in a while, and his voice had changed. And I'm like, damn, IG, you grew up, man. I'm sure he might be out there. He might still listen every once in a while. There's been a few since back then that we've lost to puberty, I'm sure. But I love him when they're, God, he would just laugh so much, right?
Right.
Just like he'd giggle. Yeah, and Dirty Aaron would just have so much fun making fun of him.
Oh, I love Dirty Aaron. He's the Brent Westwood show, right? Is that the same? That's right. I'm right.
Brent Westwood show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron. Yeah.
Oh, he's good. I just remember listening to the calls and somebody would be like, all right, you're on your own this time. So it's like, and he's like, I got this. Like, I remember one time he called somebody and he was like, can you press 5675? And they're like, why? And he's like, to confirm your order for 1 million ponies. And you were like, what the hell, man? So it's
like, why would anyone say, yeah, sure, here you go? Like, okay.
Oh man, that's the funny.
Yeah. Well, you know, with him, I think maybe part of the reason he disappeared was he started getting phone calls at his school. I think someone called his school and said that they were his dad and there was a crisis, so he got pulled out of school to the principal's office. And they're like, yeah, your dad says so-and-so died. And I think at that point his parents were like, all right, like, stop the shit, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that might be part of it. Yeah, again, people taking it too far. Funny, but taking it too far. Just a little bit too far there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now we can get into some recent developments. Why don't you just lay it all out for me, what your plans are? No live shows after the end of the year, or, what's the future? And I want to talk about Prank Call Station, because that is the worst ripoff I've ever heard. Like, that's not even original.
Yeah, I didn't see that until like a few days after it came out. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, come up with a better idea. I'll probably get a whole slew of threats for talking about it because the guy behind it, you probably saw my comment on Facebook where all I said was, we're wrapping things up because of the trolling and this and that. We're moving on. And at the very end, I say, we're all agree we're tired of, certain people who want to just copy overnight. And within a few hours, I get, motherfucker, if you talk, I told you, don't talk about publicly or I'm going to fucking destroy your life. I'm like, that's why I'm done. So
yeah.
This will, I'll probably get more threats and more phone calls to my house and more shit mailed to me, more fucking boxes and porno and shit sent to my house. But basically, it's been going on for years where the trolling has gotten progressive. To be honest with you, ever since we founded PCN, it's been nothing but a nightmare with the trolling. Like, I've so much of it out of the public limelight just to not give these guys any headway or credence or any, lulls for doing it. But it's been like a war for a year and a half, years going on now. It's I've talked, like, I've gone back and forth within that time, and everyone out there is probably like, fucking Carlito says he's quitting every 6 months because he's tired of it. He's quitting, he comes back. Well, yeah, because I get fed up with it.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, like, I took some time. I really thought about it. I talked to my peers, talked to my staff, the founding members, Gia, Brad, Dwight, not in that order necessarily. I said, hey, guys, look, this shit's been happening to you guys, I know personally. It's definitely been happening to me. And, like, for example, some of the hosts have said, we're not even having fun with it anymore. Like, you feel forced to do a show at this point, kind of going back to how I said I understand where KDK is coming from, where you feel like you're just kind of going through the motions and not really getting anything out of it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's the constant threats on myself, the shit being done to myself, the shit being done to my co-hosts and my friends just because they're affiliated with me who aren't even involved with any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when it comes to our shows, yeah, it's fun to do live shows. Here's where I'm coming from. It's fun to do live shows, right? The live experience is fun. Most of our listeners and exposure come from podcasts, and this has been true for me since I started podcasting in early 2006.
Mm-hmm.
I get way more subscribers on podcasts and way more downloads than I get people who listen live.
Yeah.
By a long shot, by 5, 6, 7 times. There really isn't, that I know of, other than this prank call station, there really isn't a live network of prank callers out there, other than what we've started, if you don't count, KDK stuff, which was years ago, Legos stuff, and PrankNet, which blew up in their face. That was something that grew really big, really fast, got tons of media exposure, and just by the very nature of how toxic it was, just blew up in their face. What we all agreed is that we love prank calls. We love making people laugh. But by its very nature, I guess just because when you think about what we're doing, it's a very toxic environment, man. Like, for example, my 10-year, this is I have never talked about this outside of my core group. My 10-year anniversary show, I think there were maybe 7, and that's a conservative number, of deliveries to my house. I did a 12-hour well, it ended up being 14.
Yeah.
I did this mini marathon, 12, 14 hours of shows.
Right.
There were at least 7 to 8. At least 7 to 8 deliveries at my house during that show, to the point where I just closed the door and I pulled the little wires off of my doorbell. And every once in a while, like, I take a break, and my neighbor, he goes outside to smoke. It's like, dude, Carlos, like, you just had, the Chinese places came here. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, yeah, it's like, it's fucked up, know. Like, and all I'm trying to do is entertain people. I'm trying to make people laugh and give other people a station where they can do the same, kind of grow and develop. And the PCN thing was an experiment. We learned a lot from it. We gained a lot from it. We got Pranksgiving, Neon, a lot of different, and then there's a lot more things that came out of it. I'm not selling anybody short. We got a lot of things out of it, a lot of positive stuff, a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. At the same time, it's been nothing but a headache. I'm not the only one. I'm not going to speak for any other of the hosts, but I know a lot of hosts have had ambulances called to their house, first responders have showed up, food deliveries, mothers, fathers, kids called and pranked. Shit like that, in the end, when all we're trying to entertain people, and the only thanks we get is that, you know what I mean? Not to even get to the point with all the backstabbing that happens when you've got hosts that we have said, here's a place for you to come. The community has said, you're a really guy, really funny girl, you're doing stuff on your own.
Right.
You want to come over here? We got listeners, we have a network going, we support each other. Here's a place for you to kind of develop a little more and get more exposure. Yeah, sure, no problem. And within months, it's like, oh, fuck you, I'm going to do my own thing. It's like, whoa, like, hey, chill out, like, and then to go after us. This has happened ever since Prank Call Nation started. You had Deathfox started it. He was the first guy.
Right.
You had the Cracker miss happen. Now you've got the Macron miss happening. You've had tons of other people who, for one reason or another, have made it their life missions to make me, the other hosts, and even people who aren't even hosts, people, listeners, people who are just regulars in the chat room, and they get phone calls at their house, they get shit sent to their house, they get their lives made visible just because they're listening to these shows.
Well, here's the question, all right, though. Like, Macron started off with PCN. Like, he didn't have his show, I don't think, but he was, putting a lot of work into it. He started off on his own. Yeah. I will admit, Macron started off on his own. I don't know. There was a period of time where he was involved with that Cracker Insurgent Network, as I like to joke around and call it. He was whatever, if he was on his own or with them or her or whatever it was. He started out over there, and there was a big blow up. And at some, I know, I knew nothing of the guy. All I know is we were doing our own thing, and I would get messages and stuff like that say, hey, you heard this Macron guy, you should give him a chance on PCN and this and that.
And of course, I'm wary because of our history with the people he was associating with at the time.
Right.
So eventually, we're like, well, people who are vouching for him. Basically, every host on PCN at the point was like, we like Macron, we like hanging out with him, we like doing shows with him, conferences. And I was like, yeah, well, give the guy a chance. Who am I to say no? He's interested in being on PCN.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in having him on, give him a shot on, and then, I guess the whole thing goes back to the guy was trying to do a show. He wanted to do a show on his birthday. Brad wanted to do a show that night. Brad was already on the air. Macron came in and said, I want to do a show. And he just, exploded. The hydrogen bomb exploded on everybody.
Wow.
After a history going off on little things here and there, and it was kind of like, you know what, man, good luck to you. Move on. I'm not going to do anything to hamper you. Go do your thing. You can take as many listeners over as you want. You can have as many of our listeners listen to you too. I've never been the one to say, despite what people say, I've never been the one to say, you can't listen, you can't be cool with us and be cool with someone else. Despite what everyone else says about that, that's never been the case.
Right.
He doesn't see it that way. It's just a war between him and us, and him and us, and him and us. And he this nice little perfect picture over on his side about how we're bad, and we're this and that. And then he turns around and privately he just goes off on me like it's what he thinks. Again, I'm probably going to get a lot of shit out of this. I don't care at this point.
Right. That's the whole thing of my show is I want you to be as honest and, just air your grievances. It's a good show, it's a place for somebody that can come in. I don't know if there's this Players Tribune where they can come in, regular sports players can talk their side of the story because everything gets construed when it's not clearly told, so that's what I love about this show.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Cool.
Macron, it's just a whole drama.
He's a funny guy. I will admit, and I've never not said that Macron is not a funny guy. He's not a talented prank caller, but there is a lot of other stuff that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
That has come with that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I've straight up said to him and other people, start your own network. I've said to Cracker the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Cracker, start your own network. Take as many people away from us as you want.
Yeah.
If we lose them, we don't want them, we don't need them. If they're going to make that decision, I don't care. Again, I will do a show for 20 people on my own and be just as happy. As long as those people are laughing and enjoying me and laughing at what I'm doing, that's what's important. I went into the PCN thing and creating it with one thing on the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
If this thing ever gets to the point where I'm not having fun doing it, I'll end it. I'll shut it all down. I'll go back to either A, doing it on my own like I've always done, or B, not doing it at all. That's where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm leaning towards just because I got a lot of shit going on in my life. A lot of things I'm trying to get done right now. The prank call thing, especially with PCN, it's been it's a lot of work. A lot of people out there are like, yeah, Crowley, I only show up once a week and do a show. No, there's a lot. I have to update. I have to keep the website running. I have to keep all the PCM bills going.
Right.
I have to manage the minefield, which is all the different cliques and all the different personalities. You think it's hard. You want to imagine one host will not work with these other two hosts, but will work with these three.
Yeah.
But one of those three will not. The host and this, I can't even tell. I need a freaking chart to figure out who can work with who, and who said this. I would have to be literally sitting and listening to every second of show and every word uttered in the chat room and everything said on social media to get even a grasp of who hates who and who likes who, and it's just a fucking nightmare.
Oh yeah.
I've loved it for the last 2 years. It's been great for however long it's been, but man, is it a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. It's not worth it to me. I know we have a Patreon page, and There's money that comes into that. Yeah, that supplements my income a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
About a third of what we make on Patreon, what it shows you, like when you go to the Patreon Prank Call Nation page,
Mm-hmm.
about a third of that never comes in. For whatever reason or another, either people's payments bounce or they don't come through. I really only see 2/3, if that, of what's on there to start off with.
Yeah.
From that, a pretty significant amount goes to hosting fees. Mixler, which keeps raising their fees like crazy. And it's like when you say, well, yeah, Carlito, you could just get GoDaddy $9.99 a month. No, like because of the DDoSing and stuff that we have to deal with on a weekly, if not daily basis from people who are out to get us.
Right.
We spend a lot of money on mitigation. We spend a lot of money on increasing the number of processes. We got a lot of people. I mean, these are 64 kilobit because, for example, and they're 64K files.
Mm-hmm.
We have shows that are 3-4 hours long sometimes. It's a lot of traffic, a lot of bandwidth, a lot of web space. Rest assured, we haven't turned a profit, and I haven't turned a profit until the last 6 to 9 months, maybe. And to be honest, what that is not very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of the recent things that's being thrown out there is that Carlito keeps all the money. Hey, man, I haven't really. First of all, that money that's been coming in from PCN, Patreon, I haven't seen. It wasn't until recently that I started receiving that money. That was being administered by someone else altogether.
Yeah.
I do receive that money. That does come to me. But hey,
mm-hmm.
when Dwight said I need a new microphone stand, Carlito's there to get the new microphone stand.
Mm-hmm.
When Gilmore's like, I need this, and I'm like, Gilmore, I got your back. I got you. All those fees and shit like that, they add up. Yeah, I know it looks like a lot of money. To be honest, $100-something a month that PCN pulls in after everything is said and done is really not worth the effort for all the shit I have to deal with.
Right.
Not even looking at the fact that it affects my personal life at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just really a nightmare. I think we would all have a lot more fun. Like when I speak to Jayad, and I hope Jayad's okay with me talking about this. I sat down with Jayad. I was talking to him Jayad's my friend. I said, hey, look, here's what's going on. I'm not having fun with this anymore. I don't want to shut you guys off. I will keep doing this. I will refrain from doing live shows, but I will keep paying the bills. I will keep uploading shows. I will keep promoting you guys. I'll keep the chat room running so that you guys have a home to make people laugh. And Jayad's like, you know what? I'm not having fun with it anymore.
Mm-hmm. I'm
forcing myself to do shows. I have more fun doing it on YouTube on my own time with the call confusion. I'm like, all right, so there's one person already, one of my is already saying, if we need to end it, we need to end it. I talked to Ken. He's feeling the same way. Brad, he doesn't even really like doing live shows anymore. He's going to keep doing them. But you can tell. Brad used to do a live show twice a week.
Yeah.
He does maybe one every once in a while now, just because it's, I'm sure he's going to keep doing live shows. But it's not what it was anymore. Mm-hmm. It's been fun. Like I said, we've had a lot of fun, but I think at this point, we can still put out quality content, probably even better. Here's one thing. If I can release a show once a month on my podcast with no calls that don't get picked up, with no unfunny calls, with no long pauses, with no bullshit, I think that's better than releasing a show that I feel forced to sit down and do, where I'm not really having fun, where I'm in Stewart do the entire show because I just don't feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's. It sounds like Nintendo 1996, but it's quality over quantity at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the long run, there's a lot more people doing a lot better out there in the internet with offline, non-live podcasts and YouTube videos on their channels than our live shows. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
That's where we are. I don't know how else to say it. There's a lot I can't talk about. There's a lot I've said that I probably shouldn't talk about. But hey,
Hey.
I mean, at this point, who cares?
Right.
I want to be honest with everyone, and let you know. I mean, I will tell you this. I fought with it for like at least 6 to 9 months now, where I've been like, if I stop doing live shows, if I kill Prank Call Nation, what about Jihad? What about Ken? What about, not Brad? He's fine, but what about Neon? What about...
Is Jag TV still on?
Like, who am I?
Is Jag TV?
Yeah, of course Jag's fine. Yeah, Jag's, I mean, yeah, and that's, I get that a lot. Well, Jag's on the other network. Like, what's up with that? Like, I've had conversations with Jag, and he said, I don't know where that's coming from. I'm PCN all the way.
Right.
I had one conversation where I said, yeah, sure, whatever. And next thing I know, everyone's on Jag's ass about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. And that's because that's the person I have not reached out to yet with this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. But
again, I think it's going to be fine. Jag has had his own YouTube channel. He's got his own YouTube projects. I'm sure he'll do fine.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing. There is no way I would tell Jag, Dwight, Jihad, anyone, I'm going to be pissed off because you do your own shows on your own Mixer channel, your own shoutcast, your own this or that. I would never do that. Like,
right.
I would still support you 100%. Look at me, KDK, Lego, and Zolar and us guys. Like, KDK did his own shows on his own network. Zolar does his own thing. Lego's done his own thing. We're still friends.
Mm-hmm.
We still support each other. When Lego comes on my show every once in a while, I'm like, everyone, go to Lego's website, go to Zolar420.com, go to, prank call, what is it, pranktheworld.com, whatever it may be. You know what? I've formed bonds with these guys, these hosts, that will never be broken. I hope never. And hell, if Prank Call Station takes over and takes half or the majority or all of the shows that used to be in Prank Call Nation, and if every listener were to move over to Prank Call Station from Prank Call Nation after it shuts down, I don't care. It is what it is. I'm done with the live thing. To be honest, after having done it for 2 years, it's a failed experiment because prank calls and the prank call community by its nature is very, very toxic. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of good people and there's a lot of fun to have, but there are a lot of sick people that have mental issues that are really into it, and God bless them because they've been keeping us going for a long time, and we've done this for them, but they will turn on you in a second.
Yeah.
And I've seen this go since I started in 2005. These guys will be like, well, fuck you, Carlito, the new shit is, so-and-so. So be it. I'm done with it. I'm going to keep doing my shows, new format coming out. My plan, I'll share with you now. I'm thinking once a month is what I can honestly do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably have like a little section at the beginning. I'll, do maybe 30, 60 minutes of prank calls. I'll have a guest pranker with me. Milkman will be with me the whole way. We'll release that once a month, and whoever listens will listen. Whoever doesn't. I'm fine. It's okay. Yeah. I put 10 to this.
Yeah.
That is way more than I ever thought could have happened when I started in 2005.
Right.
There's no way I thought it'd be 2015 and I'd still be doing prank call shows.
Yeah.
Let alone for the number of people who are still around.
You have so many loyal followers, too. I mean, I am lonesome loser.
I love every single... Yeah. I love every single... You don't know how... I love every... I mean, I know I don't really talk about it. I love every single listener, every person that's reached out to me said, I was in the hospital for 3 months, and all I did was listen to your shows, binge listen to your shows.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how much... It really touches me,
because
in the end I'm like, it's me doing fucking stupid childish prank calls and talking about my ideas of what the world is every once in a while in my shows.
Yeah.
And people have told me I've changed their lives. I've gone through tough spots in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. I've gone through medical issues in the last few years.
Right.
If it wasn't for PCN and the fans, I don't know where I'd be right now because, I mean, to be honest with you, that's one of the few things that kept me going. Other than that, and my wife and my family, God bless it, that's one of the few things I've had in my life. But, hey, if it ends, it ends. You got to keep moving,
That's it. I mean, that's the biggest thing is that you keep on chugging, and then when you once a month seems like a really good idea. I mean, because then you give the audience something, but then you get to live your life a little bit too, you know, and you get to have the stress kind of lifted off of the PCN. I also want to touch on, you know, people say, well, Carlito keeps all the money. I know that Dwight was having issues with Christmas, and you helped out. You said you let him set up his own thing, and I mean, that's something that really speaks volumes about how you treat your hosts on your show, on your network.
Well, I'll tell you this, and this really upset me when I saw a recent comment about Carlito keeps all the money, don't give money to his fat ass. Look, I've never told anybody not to have their own thing going. Look, Jag, Brad, Dwight, Neon, others have their own Patreons, their own Kickstarters, or whatever they may be. I have never said you can't promote that. You know, all I've ever said is like, hey, if you're gonna be on the air, promote your stuff, get yours, man, get your money. Please help me out. Drop, you know, patreon.com/prankcallnation if you can at least once, and then plug. I have never, no host can ever say that I've ever come out and said, I've got a problem with you having your own Patreon. I have never said that. Nor would I ever have a problem with that, because that's not what this has been about.
Right.
Yeah, now, to be honest with you, Dwight, I mean, there were some people saying, you know, Carlito, buy this for Dwight for Christmas for his help his son out and this and that. He came to me and said, Carlito, don't worry about it. I'm covered. He's good. And that's all right. I would have. We had the funds. Yeah. I would have done that for him to help him out. He did his own thing and got his help. But again, I've never once, I challenge anyone to say where I've told any of the people I've mentioned or anybody else. I've even told Morgan, promote your own, you know, you've got your own online business going on, promote the shit out of that as much as you want. Brad definitely has his own thing going on. You know what? When it came to Patreon, I learned about Patreon several years ago. The first, before I even started a Patreon page for Prank Call Nation or myself, Carlito, I told Brad, have you heard of Patreon? No, Carlito, never heard about it. Brad, check it out. Patreon, you know, you can make some money off of this. A lot of independent guys are doing this. Brad had a Patreon going for a year before the PCN one ever came out. I had no problem with it. I didn't look at it like I lost headway. I could have made all this money. Right. You know, it's not about that, you know. And to be honest, that Patreon money, I wasn't holding the purse strings for the longest. I was afraid to be in charge of the money. There was other people who were handling the payments and the receiving and the sending out of stickers and the receiving of the funds and paying the bills for the longest. And at some point, I took it over. Yeah. After certain things, nothing negative, but I took it over. But again, it's not like I've been sitting here just raking in the money off the backs of my hosts. These guys have never had anything where I've said they can't make their own money, and they have, and I have no problem with that. I love these guys, and shit, if I had to the PCM, you know, as a matter of fact, I've told these guys several times, hey, I want to put your guys, you know, if you guys have anything, whether it's a YouTube page, your own website, your own Patreon, it's up on PCN. It's on their show page. You can go there and you can go their own stuff. Neon has her own website. I've never had a problem with sending people to her. As a matter of fact, all of Neon's episodes, they are not sitting on the PCN server. They hotlink from the PCN feed. They link to the server, so she gets the hits. Sure. I'm not getting it. You know, we're not getting the page hits for that. Her out. Yeah. No. I mean, I think we get a page hit, but she gets the page hit too. It hits her server. I've never. I mean, because I know how it is when you're first starting out. I had none of this help when I started out. You know, all those guys. Yeah, we didn't have that kind of network. I came into it looking like I can do something for some other people. I can really make this genre grow. It's a really small prank call genre that I've been trying to get grow for a while, and we'll keep it growing. God willing, you know, we're going to keep it growing as best as we can. We got a good following. We've got good fans, good staff, good listeners, whatever it may be. I'm not going anywhere. Just because we stopped doing live shows doesn't mean the prank calls are going to stop. I'm definitely not planning on going anywhere anytime soon, nor are any of your hosts, as far as I know, planning on going anywhere soon.
They might cut back, but they might cut back, but I mean, they're still going to be producing.
Yeah, I think we're just refocusing on doing this in a more mature way, a more mainstream way. I think a more grown-up kind of way. The live network thing has been fun, but I don't think it's feasible.
No.
And really, there aren't really, I don't know of any really kind of live network this and that are really big online.
Yeah.
I see a lot of podcasters out there, a lot of YouTube guys, a lot of vloggers and stuff like that. They might do live shows here and there, but that's not where this goes.
No.
Hey. And I'm not saying I'm not going to do a live show, every once in a while. I'll probably jump on. I know Dwight has said he'll jump on live every once in a while. I know Brad's going to keep doing his stuff and he's not interested in Mixer anymore, but I know he's told me personally that he's going to do YouTube Live and Periscope. I know Jayad is just kind of at this point. He's going to be doing his YouTube thing.
Yeah.
He might end up doing podcasts at some point again. We're not going anywhere, guys. We're just, again, we're refocusing and we're taking a more mature approach in this. We're trying to rise above the back chatter, the back talk of where this has kind of been going lately.
Yeah.
I've always tried to take the high road with this. We'll see where it goes, but I know I'm not going anywhere. I know I haven't worked 10 years to throw this all away.
Yeah.
But I do know, hey, I got a chance to do 10 years of live shows. I got to do this big send-off in July, 12, 14-hour show. I had all my friends with me from years as Sean Ward, Todd, KDK, Lego, Zolar. All those old school guys are with me. I love them like brothers forever.
Yeah.
I even got to do Pranksgiving again. And we're going to, hey, look, the month of December, we've got, I'll tell you now, everyone, me and Brad, when we go live together for the holidays, we've done some really, really fun shows on New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve.
Oh, yeah, man. I've listened to all of them. I love them all. They're hilarious.
We're planning one last show together, Christmas Eve night. I'm going to shut things down on New Year's Eve. I'm going to do just like I did last year. We're going to do our countdown for the 4 time zones in the continental U.S. I'll be doing prank calls to that whole thing. I hope as many of the hosts and fans can join in for that. I know Ken's going to be doing the last show, I believe, on the 26th he has planned.
Yep.
He has his own plans that I'm not supposed to talk about, but he's going to be doing his own send-off. I know Neon's is planning her last show, live show that is. I don't expect her to go anywhere. She has 976neon.com. I'm sure Jag will be fine. He's going to be okay. We're not, again, it's not like we're going anywhere. We're just moving on and, stay with us. Keep supporting us.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm going to be listening. Maybe if you want me to, I could join in as well. One of those episodes would be fun.
Sure.
I really, just to say one last time, for any of those detractors out there that say that you keep the money, I remember Nips for Milkman. That was a big thing. You know what I mean? Like, you're helping out and Milkman has been there for 10 years and you've supported him every step of the way. So that's awesome. So I just wanted to.
I don't take my shirt off at the pool. I don't take my shirt off when I have sex with my wife. I take my shirt off for all of y'all to donate to my hermano. All right. So that's how deep that goes.
Right.
But yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Oh, man, I really appreciate everything that you've talked about here today. And I want to say one last time, I think you can make a lot of money if you sell a cologne called Horse or Machine or something like that, because if you make it big, you can get that cologne still.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Sounds good, man. Yeah, the Horse and Machine, those words forever are... I will not, if I hear someone say machine in public, I giggle and I say it back, machine. Like, I was in a hospital for so long with my health problems. I had a nurse check my temperature and said it was 98.6, and I said the mouth. She's like, what? 98.6? She's like, yeah. I said the mouth. It's like, okay. So, yeah, little things like that, man.
They make it up, right? That's awesome. No, I mean, like I said, keep doing your thing, man. You're great. Other than that, I got really...
You know, congratulations on your podcast. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
I hope I'm doing a great job with your premiere episode. This has been fun so far. But yeah, man.
Well, we're gonna do a bi-weekly show, so we got a couple guests set up for next month. Probably gonna only do one episode this month, which will be your episode on December 19th. Obviously, this is pre-recorded for everybody recording now, but thanks for joining us on Lettuce Radio.
All right, thanks for having me, man. Take care.
Yeah, you too.